All right, so you found it. That perfect piece of land in Kenya. Maybe it's on the coast overlooking the ocean or high up in the peaceful highlands, and you're ready to build your dream home. But before you even think about breaking ground, we got to talk about due diligence.
Yeah, it's like laying a strong foundation for that dream home. So it's built on solid ground,
Yeah.
literally and legally.
Exactly. Because nobody wants to hear those horror stories where people sink their life savings into property only to find out it's tangled up in legal battles or it's got all these restrictions so they can't even use the land how they planned.
Right. Those situations are more common than you might think.
You're talking about losing your investment.
Yep.
Getting stuck in court.
Hmm.
And watching your dream just crumble. So in this deep dive, we're going deep into this guide to due diligence in Kenyan real estate to help equip you with the knowledge to buy property there safely.
Yeah, we want you to avoid those legal pitfalls. That could turn your paradise into a real estate nightmare.
Exactly. So let's start with one of the trickiest parts of buying property, those hidden legal landmines, easements, restrictions, and covenants. The guide paints a pretty vivid picture here. Imagine you've poured your heart and soul into building your dream home. With the pool, a garden, the works. You're about to host your first big family gathering, and then bam! You get a notice that a power line needs to go right through your property, and they might even make you demolish part of your beautiful home.
Heartbreaking. And sadly, these easements, restrictions, and covenants are often buried in the fine print and can really impact how you use and enjoy your property.
Okay, so for our listeners, can we break down what these terms actually mean, and more importantly, how we can avoid falling victim to them?
Sure. So an easement, it basically gives somebody else the right to use part of your land for a specific purpose. It could be a utility company needing access for power lines, or a neighbor needing to get to their property, or even the government setting up a drainage system.
So I'm guessing no building a massive apartment complex in the middle of a quiet neighborhood zoned for single-family homes.
Exactly. And then you have restrictions. These are rules that limit what you can do on the property. They're often there to preserve the character of a neighborhood or to protect environmental resources
I see.
and covenants. These are agreements between you and the seller, sometimes even recorded in the land title, that set conditions for how the land can be used, like building restrictions, landscaping guidelines, even limits on what kind of animals you can keep.
Okay, so it's not just about finding that perfect piece of land. It's about understanding those hidden legal strings attached. It's like buying a painting and then finding out it can only be displayed in a dimly lit room.
Yeah.
With specific temperature and humidity control.
Perfect analogy. That's why it's so important to do your research and really dig into the property's legal history before you sign anything.
So how do we even start uncovering these hidden gems?
The first step is diving into those land records. They're usually kept at the local land registry or the Ministry of Lands. These records hold a ton of info about the property's history, including any easements, restrictions, and covenants.
Sounds like navigating those records could get pretty complicated, especially if you're not familiar with the Kenyan legal system.
Yeah, it can be. That's why it's often a good idea to get help from a qualified lawyer, one who specializes in real estate. They can walk you through the process, help you understand all the legal mumbo-jumbo, and spot any red flags that could turn your dream into a nightmare.
All right, so we've dodged the first round of landmines, easements, restrictions, and covenants. What's the next crucial step in this real estate adventure?
Land surveys. You really don't want to find yourself in a boundary dispute with a neighbor in Kenya.
Yeah, I can imagine those getting pretty heated, especially when land ownership is involved. So we're not talking about just pulling up Google Maps here, right?
No, definitely not. You need a professional land surveyor, someone who can give you an official map of the property, outlining the boundaries, the size, and any potential encroachments or disputes.
So it's like getting a certified blueprint of the land, making sure you know exactly what you're buying.
Exactly. And a land survey can reveal stuff you might not see right away, like encroachments from neighboring properties, meaning their fence or even part of their structure is on your land. It can also spot any weirdness with the size or boundaries, making sure you're not paying for less land than you should be getting.
And I bet having that official survey is a lifesaver if a dispute does pop up.
Absolutely. It's your legal proof, providing clarity and peace of mind. Imagine this. You just bought a piece of land, ready to build. A few weeks later, your neighbor comes knocking, saying part of your land is actually theirs. Without a proper survey, you're in trouble, potentially facing a costly legal battle.
Sounds like a nightmare. So professional land survey checked. Dodge those legal traps, confirm the boundaries. What's next on our due diligence checklist?
Before we get ahead of ourselves planning the landscaping, we need to talk about property inspection.
Okay, so more than a quick walkthrough. Admiring the views and picturing where the furniture goes,
Right.
we need to put on our inspector hats and really scrutinize every nook and cranny.
Exactly. Think of it this way. You wouldn't buy a used car without a test drive. And having a mechanic check it out. A property inspection is the same idea for real estate. It's about finding those hidden issues. That could become expensive headaches down the road.
Yeah, a tiny crack in the foundation might not seem like a big deal now, but it could be a sign of a huge structural problem that could cost a fortune to fix later.
Exactly. And it's not just structural issues. A good inspection can uncover plumbing problems, electrical faults, signs of pests, roof damage, all sorts of things that could affect the safety and value of the property and how livable it is.
So we're talking about a professional inspector, someone who knows what to look for and can give us a detailed report.
Precisely. And here's another bonus. A property inspection can give you leverage when you're negotiating the price. Say the inspection finds a roof that needs replacing. Now you can go back to the seller and negotiate a lower price to cover the cost of that repair.
Makes sense. Using the info you gather to protect yourself and make sure you're getting a fair deal. Okay, so we've tackled those legal traps, confirmed the boundaries, inspected the property for any hidden problems. What's the next crucial step in our quest for real estate security?
An official search at the Ministry of Lands. Think of it as a background check on the property to uncover its entire legal history, making sure there are no surprises waiting for you.
Okay, so like digging into the property's past, making sure there are no skeletons in the closet. What kind of information are we looking for in this search?
First and foremost, we're confirming ownership. We need to be absolutely certain that the seller is the real owner and that they have the right to sell it to you. It's about preventing situations where you buy a property and then find out it was acquired fraudulently or someone else has a legal claim to it.
That sounds like a recipe for disaster. So confirming ownership, top priority. What else should we be on the lookout for?
Encumbrances, basically legal claims or restrictions that could limit your ownership rights or affect the value of the property, like outstanding mortgages, unpaid property taxes, legal disputes, restrictions on land use.
So making sure the property comes with a clean slate, free from any hidden debts or legal messes.
Exactly. And there's a case in Kenya that really highlights this point. A buyer purchased a property without doing a proper search, only to find out later it was tied up in a legal battle over ownership. They lost a lot of money and were dragged into a legal fight that went on for years.
Oh, that's a serious reminder. It's not just about protecting our finances, it's about saving ourselves the stress and uncertainty of a legal battle. So an official search at the Ministry of Lands is non-negotiable. What else do we need to consider as we continue our deep dive?
Financing. A lot of people need a bank loan to buy property. While banks can be helpful, it's important to remember they are businesses. And those loans can come with hidden fees or terms that aren't great and might not be obvious at first.
So it's not just about getting approved for the loan. It's about really understanding the fine print, making sure we're not signing up for something that'll cost us more later, like ordering a meal at a restaurant and then finding out there's a hidden service charge, or they added an expensive bottle of wine to your bill without asking.
Exactly. You have to read every line of those financing agreements. I know it's tedious, but pay attention to the interest rates, the repayment terms, any fees, and any clauses that could penalize you, or even lead to losing your property if you don't meet certain conditions.
So we need to channel our inner lawyer, scrutinize those documents, and if anything seems unclear or worrying, don't hesitate to ask for an explanation or get independent legal advice.
Absolutely. It's always better to be safe than sorry, especially when it comes to something as important as owning property.
Okay, we've covered easements, surveys, inspections, official searches, even the potential traps of financing. Feels like we're building a solid knowledge base, but it also feels like we're missing someone crucial on our real estate dream team.
You're right. We haven't talked about having a good advocate on your side.
So not just any lawyer, but someone who specializes in property law, knows the ins and outs of the Kenyan legal system, and can guide us through this process with expertise and confidence.
Exactly. Think of your advocate as your legal guardian angel. They'll review all the contracts, make sure the title deed is clean, ensure all the searches are done properly, and basically be your legal representative if any issues pop up.
So they're there to make sure we don't get taken advantage of, that our interests are protected every step of the way, and that we have a legal expert fighting our corner if things get complicated.
Exactly. Having a dedicated advocate can make a huge difference in having a smooth and successful real estate transaction. They can help you avoid costly mistakes,
Yeah.
navigate the legal complexities, and negotiate effectively to protect your
It's
interests.
like having a seasoned Sherpa guiding us through the Kenyan real estate market. They know the best paths to take, the pitfalls to avoid, and how to get us to our destinations safely.
Love that analogy. And the guide emphasizes their role goes beyond just looking at documents and going to meetings. They can also give you insights into local customs, negotiation strategies, even cultural nuances you might not be aware of.
Okay, advocate checked. Building a dream team here. But even with the best team in the world, there's one skill that can make or break this whole experience: negotiation, especially in Kenya, where bargaining is so common. Knowing how to negotiate well can save you a ton of money and get you the best possible deal.
Absolutely. It's not about being aggressive or lowballing the seller. It's about being prepared strategic and understanding the Kenyan real estate market.
So where do we even begin? What are some insider tips to help our listeners navigate this negotiation dance with confidence?
First, do your research. Understand the market trends, compare prices of similar properties. Get a sense of what's considered a fair price for the kind of property you're after. Knowledge is power when it comes to negotiation.
So we need to do our own homework, become mini real estate experts, and come to the negotiating table with facts and figures.
Exactly. And don't forget to factor in any potential repair costs or renovations. If the property needs work, that's something you can use during negotiations and could justify a lower offer.
It's all about leverage, right?
Precisely. Also, try to figure out the seller's motivation. Are they eager to sell? Do they have other offers? Understanding their position can tell you how much wiggle room you might have.
So it's not just about the property. It's about the people involved, too, understanding their motivations and circumstances, like a game of chess, where you have to anticipate your opponent's moves.
That's a great way to put it. And here's a crucial tip. Don't be afraid to walk away if the deal isn't right for you. Sometimes the best negotiation tactic is saying no.
That's so important. It's easy to get caught up in the excitement when you find a property you love and feel pressured to make a deal. But we have to remember it's a business transaction, and we can't let our emotions cloud our judgment. If the numbers don't work or we're not comfortable with the terms, it's okay to walk away and look for something else.
Absolutely. There are always other properties out there. Be patient, persistent, and stick to your guns. Don't settle for a deal that doesn't feel right just because you're worried about missing out.
Okay, so research leverage and being willing to walk away. Any other negotiation strategies that can help us get that dream property?
One thing that works is to start with a reasonable offer, but one that gives you some room to negotiate. Don't insult the seller with a super low offer, but don't be afraid to start a bit below what you're actually willing to pay.
So finding that sweet spot.
Exactly. And be prepared to explain your offer. If you're going below the asking price, tell them why. Maybe you found similar properties selling for less, or the property needs repairs that will affect the value.
So backing up our offer with solid reasoning.
Exactly. Another tip is to focus on building a good relationship with the seller. Negotiation doesn't have to be a fight. Try to create a collaborative atmosphere where both sides feel heard and respected.
So we're not trying to outsmart the seller. We're looking for a win-win, where everyone feels good about the deal.
Exactly. And don't forget, nonverbal communication matters too. Make eye contact, be respectful, listen to what they have to say. Sometimes those unspoken things can make or break a negotiation.
So we're being strategic, building rapport, and paying attention to those subtle cues. Anything else we should keep in mind during these negotiations?
Be patient. Negotiating a property purchase can take time. You probably won't reach an agreement right away. Be prepared for counteroffers, concessions, and some back and forth.
So stay calm, stay focused, and don't get discouraged.
Exactly. And you can always ask your advocate to help you with the negotiations. They can give you advice, help you make persuasive arguments, and make sure your interests are protected.
So a skilled advocate is like a secret weapon in our negotiation toolbox.
Yes.
Okay, so we've covered the art of negotiation, but what happens when we reach that agreement? What are the key things to keep in mind as we finalize the purchase agreement and get ready to seal the deal?